Is it still true that if you book on a Tuesday, you're going to get the best price on a flight?
No, let's do some myth busting. That
Wait, that's
is
not true?
no, that's
Come
not
on.
true. No.
All right, so hey everybody, I'm Josh, and this is the In Your Corner podcast from CBS News Philadelphia, where we are all about finding you solutions to help you better manage and protect your money, spot the latest scams, and just be an all around better consumer. Know the rights that you have so that you're not taken advantage of. And we are talking holiday travel for this pod here. 'Tis the season, and this one predicted to be record setting, which I feel like we say that every year. But notably, last Thanksgiving was considered the busiest ever at airports. And so this year, we are seeing airlines, they're adding about 250,000 more seats this Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, prices are up with it. We'll talk more about that. But NerdWallet says that the average American is going to spend about $2,600 per person on hotel and airfare for the holidays, which is up about $260 compared to last year. So, is there any hope if you have not already booked, or are you SOL? Joining us on the pod here today, Clint Henderson. He's the managing editor of the Points Guy travel website. It's good to have you in town.
Thanks for having me. It's kind of fun to be in the newsroom.
We're usually only talking ever through a Zoom computer screen,
Mhm.
so this is nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so looking at least holiday travel here, we're already into November, which is like
Wild.
I don't even understand how. But is there any hope that I can actually get a good deal on a flight for Thanksgiving at this point?
So Thanksgiving's going to be tricky. As soon as sort of the 1 to 2 month window evaporates ahead of the flight, especially for the holidays, prices go up almost on a daily basis from that time period on. So we sort of miss the window for Thanksgiving. That's where I say use your points and miles if you have any, because you're going to get the best value
Mm,
for a high cash fare ticket that you can use miles on. So that may be a strategy to save some money. And then you never know, set a flight alert. So even if you book a really expensive ticket, set that Google flight alert, monitor the prices, because if as long as you haven't booked basic economy, you can get a fare difference for the price if it drops. So I tell people, even if you booked an expensive fare, keep monitoring the price, because if it drops, you can call the airline and say, "Hey, give me the difference in the fare."
they'll do like not a price match, but kind of like same kind of idea. So they will actually do that. I've
They
never
will.
tried
In
that.
fact, that's one of the great things that came out of COVID was these more relaxed fare rules. And so they're willing to either refund you and you can rebook it at the lower price, or they'll give you a trip credit for the difference in price. So that's a strategy a lot of people don't, you book it and then you forget it. Well, you
Hmm.
should not. You should be monitoring your prices no matter what time of year you're going. And then the other thing I would just say quickly is it's not too late for Christmas. So the golden window, like I said, is usually 1 to 2 months for
Hmm.
domestic flights, and I think we're just about the end of that golden window for Christmas flights. So if you haven't booked yet, there's still hope. Even if you do go to book Christmas flights today and they're really expensive, same thing. Set a price alert, monitor the prices to see what's happening with the price.
You guys at the Points Guy, I mean, you're like tracking hundreds of thousands of prices and tickets, right?
Yeah. In fact, we have a deal with a company called PointsPath. They have a sort of an overlay over Google Flights, and they've been sharing some information with us. So we know, for example, this year prices are up for both Thanksgiving and Christmas by 1 to 4%, which is pretty big year over year, especially because at the beginning of the year we saw prices dropping drastically across the board as demand waned.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting. I track that stuff religiously and I report on it, so I'm always very interested in what the trends are showing.
I'm looking right now. We were looking at Christmas flights, perhaps to go home and visit family in Detroit, and I couldn't believe some of the prices we reported here. Airlines are adding hundreds of thousands more seats this holiday, but the prices are up. I mean, what's the deal?
It's just extraordinary levels of demand, and it doesn't seem like inflation, it doesn't matter geopolitics, it doesn't seem to have dented the appetite for travel, especially leisure travel. So it's been a really interesting trend since the pandemic. I feel like people decided, hey, what am I going to do when lockdowns end? What's on my bucket list? And everyone said the same thing, which is I'm going to travel. And so
Yeah.
they prioritize that, and they're willing to pay no matter what it costs to fly. So that's interesting.
I know we've been talking a lot about that since COVID, but here we are, like 5 years removed.
Yeah.
There's still that like pent up demand
I
from the
really,
pandemic.
I thought that Because at the beginning of this year, we saw some weakness in demand all of a sudden, and the airlines were all warning. I really thought we were at the beginning of a sort of rationalization in demand,
Hmm.
but that didn't last very long. The airlines are all now raising their revenue forecasts and everything because that demand came roaring back. So, you know, come heck or high water, I say people are going to travel.
And clearly, people are willing to pay, and you keep seeing a lot of these airlines too add more premium seats and options,
Yeah.
and anything to add on. Clearly, it's because someone's paying for it. Someone's
No,
willing
and
to do it.
that's what's saving American Airlines, United, Delta. They're
Jeez.
adding premium, and you see the low cost carriers. The weakness in the market is really at the low end that used to benefit airlines like Frontier, Spirit. Now you see those airlines in real trouble because the demand for those basic tickets is just not there, and the major airlines added basic economy. They stole a lot of the customers from Spirit, from Frontier. So
Hmm.
it's been really interesting to watch.
See, and I try to like make sense of, so we want cheaper flights, but then these economy carriers aren't making it. So are the people who truly want cheaper flights just opting not to fly, I guess, in general? I don't know.
So what they're doing is instead of flying Spirit, they're booking Delta Basic Economy
Oh, and still
because
getting a similar kind of,
Experience. I mean, a
well, probably a
similar,
better
better
experience.
yeah, from your lips to God's ears, but certainly not cheaper because
Yeah.
the major airlines have undercut those fares with these basic economy fares, which I do not recommend for anyone because you can't change them. You can't get a refund if the price drops. There's all kinds of limitations. You can't earn miles, so I don't recommend those fares. But masterstroke by the major airlines to undercut the low cost carriers.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a consumer reporter, you're speaking my language there in terms of you are so locked in if you're going to do a
Mm.
basic fare, and God forbid you got to change it, you got to alter it, cancel it. You are kind of out of luck
Yeah, don't do
in a
it.
lot of ways with that. There's very little flexibility. Okay, so if I am, let's say, between now and Christmas, still trying to see if I can actually get a decent flight, what do you use to track prices?
Yeah, so my favorite tool in the universe is Google Flights. There's not only can you track flights, so you go to Google Flights homepage, you put in the airport and the destination you want to go, you put in the date range, and then you can just toggle a little button on there and it will track the prices. And if you're logged in your Gmail account, it will actually send you emails if the price drops or jumps. So it's a great tracking tool. And then in if you dive into Google a little bit more, you'll see a list of all the flights you're tracking, so you can keep an eye on those. Then Google Flights also has this amazing tool called Google Flights Explorer. You put in your home airport, it gives you an interactive map where you can go and just find the cheapest places, whether that's the Caribbean, Australia, or even the next state over.
Hmm.
So if you want to go to Florida and you just want to find a cheap airport to fly into, Google Flights Explorer will show you that. So people ask me if I get paid by Google Flights because I recommend them so much, but I don't. And they don't have a vested interest in you booking through them. So they'll send you to the airline, not get a commission themselves. They're just giving you information,
The-
which is power.
And are the flight prices that they're actually getting up to date, live? Like, I'm not going to click on it and then find out it's actually not that when I go to the website.
That's right. And Google Flights now you can screen out basic economy altogether, which wasn't an option before. So, if you start your search and you eliminate basic economy, it won't give you teaser like, you know, $200. It'll
Right.
show you the real price.
Okay, so that's your go-to.
That's my go-to, and I use it for everything. And I've written long guides about it on the Points Guy, so we have that information if listeners are interested.
I feel like I need to explore that more
Yeah,
often
you need
because
to
I'm
explore Google Flights Explorer.
underutilizing it. I mean, yeah, I don't know why. I usually just go right to the airline website, but I guess it makes sense to do it all in
No,
one
because
place.
you're going to see options that you might not have thought of. It
Mhm.
may even show you, airports that are not the main airport. Like I always tell people, the example I use is, if you're flying to San Francisco, check Oakland because sometimes the Oakland flights are cheaper, and the airport's just across the bay. It's not like it's far away in Sacramento or something. So
Which is
something to consider.
applicable here. If you're flying out of Philly, or you can't get something out of Philly, maybe you do Baltimore, maybe you go to JFK.
Exactly.
So that could be really useful
Yeah.
for viewers in this
Yeah,
area.
especially when you're looking for things like long haul, cheap business class flights. Sometimes flying out of JFK, if you're in Philly, is going to be a much cheaper option, whether that's with cash or with points and miles.
This man is always on the move. I follow you on Instagram. And it's like, where in the world is Clint Henderson this week?
Yeah.
I mean, and not just like across the country. Where were you recently
I
around the
was
world?
in Tokyo and Shanghai. I
Just you
did.
just dropped in, or like,
Well,
well, how does that work?
I had a week there, did some hotel reviews, got a visa for China, which I'd never been to, so I did
How was
Shanghai.
that?
Amazing. Shanghai is an incredible city, but a whole other world, basically. And then I was in Australia this year. I'm going to Morocco for a Delta's starting service between Atlanta and Marrakesh, so that'll be fun. Got a trip planned to Rio. So, yeah, I think I've been to 9 countries this year, and I'll have flown probably 200,000 miles by the end of the year,
So, long story, he knows what he's talking about.
for the most part.
I always enjoy your review of the food on the planes too.
My snarky comments.
You posted something recently, and it was a piece of. Well, what I didn't realize it was a video, so he was like panning across the food on his tray, and it was a piece of fish that you were really disappointed with. But the video started though with a was it a brownie? And
Yeah.
then it panned to the fish, and I didn't watch the video all the way, so I responded, I go, "Oh my God, that is an awful looking piece of fish." It was a brownie, so,
Yeah.
but the fish was not.
I should have started the shot of the fish probably since I was
You
slamming
buried
it.
the lead.
Yeah. It was the only option left on the plane, and fish is a hard thing to get
That's-
right on a plane.
Well, I feel like that's one of the no-nos on a plane. You don't the smell.
Yeah. That's why they give you chicken or pasta in the
It-
back.
100. Oh, right, because he also only flies in the front of the plane.
No, that's not true. I was in premium economy. I was not
You're
in first
midway.
class.
You're
Yeah.
mid to upper. Okay, if you had to recommend one like ultimate travel hack, the one thing that you believe in over everything else, is there one thing, one hack?
Flexibility is the hack. You know, if it's true when you're trying to redeem points and miles for a dream trip, it's true even at Christmas time. If you book on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve, you're going to save substantial amounts of money. So having flexibility, this is hard advice to give to parents who may be tied to a school schedule. But if you can add any flexibility at all in your trips, you're going to save a lot of money. Perfect example: spring break. Spring break is really hard to get a deal on. So if you can shift those days at all, work around the school schedule, it's going to help you save up to hundreds of dollars. And one little other tip I love to give people, because people don't know about it, is airline vacation packages. So you can book flights, hotels, rental cars, even attractions.
Are those really a good deal
A
though?
lot of times they're really good deals. So
Really?
especially I've seen on American Airlines vacations, you can save up to 40% when you combine that stuff. So some trips that might be out of reach otherwise, you can get some really good deals.
And they're actually like decent packages with
Yeah,
hotels and
absolutely.
stuff.
Some of them you can fly business class. And what I've even done is, like on a trip to Japan, I booked a vacation package because I saved 40% off the business class seats. I picked the cheapest hotel I could find. I didn't even stay at the hotel. I just got the business class seats, and then I booked my own hotel.
Wait, really? Because it was cheaper to do it it was cheaper to book a hotel you weren't going to use?
Correct. Because it gave me such a steep discount on the business class plane tickets.
Okay, well that just blew my mind
Yeah,
a little bit.
that's a hack.
Because I don't even think I would ever even think to do that.
Yeah, you gotta be crafty these days to outwit the airlines.
I mean, I've been very curious because I know Delta has Delta Vacations. That was
Yeah.
something that they've been pushing to. You mentioned a few other airlines, but I feel like I'm a little skeptical that it's either too good to be true or you're not actually getting the best price if you were to do it all separately
No,
a
it's
la
interesting.
carte.
I've done quite a bit of research on this. Delta Vacations is not that great a deal
Oh, okay, there we
usually,
go.
but you can get 20% off sometimes. And if you're interested in status, a lot of times if you're booking the vacation package, it will give you a status boost and potentially bonus miles. So there are some things in there. The other red flag I would just say is if something goes wrong with the trip, you're now dealing with a third party instead of directly with the airline, which can be troublesome.
Well, yeah, I've had firsthand experience with viewers who, whenever a third party is involved, that is when stuff
tough.
goes off the rails. No one wants to take responsibility. You don't know where you're supposed to actually go to get
But
your
if you
refund.
can get 40% off, it's sometimes
it worth
worth it's worth the gamble.
So you have to weigh your how
Your risk
much of a
tolerance.
risk are you willing to take? Yes, for that trip, that business class seat.
Yeah.
Which I mean, once you go business class, it's hard
Tough.
to go.
I remember
hard to go
booking
back.
an American Airlines vacations package, business class seats. Two of us stayed at the Adlon Kempinski in Berlin, one of the best hotels in the world, right next to the U.S. Embassy. The whole thing was $2,000 for two of us. Now we went in January, so it's kind of cold in Berlin in January. But staying at this 5-star hotel in business class for $2,000, that would have been $8,000 trip if I had booked it separately. So
Goes back to your flexibility too, right?
right,
Okay, maybe you didn't have Berlin in January on your list, but you still could knock it off the list either
Yeah.
way, right? Yeah. So I got to ask this because I've heard this for years. Is it still true that if you book on a Tuesday, you're going to get the best price on a flight?
no, let's do some myth busting. That
Wait, that's
is
not true?
no, that's
Come
not
on.
true. No, and I know these sort of myths live on forever. It seems like I think it dates back to the early days of the internet when people were like, they would reprice flights at certain times of day or whatever. So there's no truth to the idea that you can book on a Tuesday at midnight and you'll get a better deal. However, if you fly on Tuesday, you will likely get a better deal. So it doesn't matter what time or what day you book, but it does matter what time or what day you travel.
The travel day counts. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I've for the rare times that I've flown on like a Tuesday or Wednesday and it feels like there's no one there, that
That's
makes
exactly
sense.
it. So the business travelers are usually traveling on Monday and Friday. So that's when you're going to find the planes most crowded. Also people leaving on the weekend, on those days. So, planes are least crowded. It's least expensive Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Once in a while, you'll see that on a Saturday or a Sunday, but it just really depends on the business market, the time of year, that kind of thing.
Okay, so long story short, I'm not totally screwed just yet.
No, still time for
There's
Christmas.
still time.
Still time for Christmas. And this is a good reminder, start setting those Google flight alerts for spring break right now because you're going to enter the golden window in January, February.
I was going to say that'll be coming up quick then.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Be here before you know it.
Well, Clint Henderson, managing editor of the Point Sky Travel website. Thanks for being here.
Good to spend some time with you.
And that'll do it for us here on this episode of In Your Corner, the podcast. I think we got to figure out, I don't know if that's the name that we're going with, but either way.
I like it.
Yeah, all right, it works. So as always, though, our inbox is open, inyourcorner@cbs.com. If you have a consumer question or an issue that you'd like us to talk about here on the podcast, I'm Josh Sidorowitz. Thanks for listening.